and this is a little bit of a different one for the channel, just a bit of a interesting interlude in between fixing cars and not being able to take cars for a drive at the moment. A little while ago, a friend of mine's dad, who was having a bit of a clear out and sort of giving up having a garage full of tools, gave me a box of old spanners and things, and there's some interesting ones in there which I thought deserved a bit of attention. This one is a King Dick, which is 7/16 and 3/8 of an inch Whitworth. This one, I can't even see the size, but it looks like quite a nicely made thing. This is a BSA, as in the motorcycles, so I'm assuming probably a Whitworth as well. This is a 3/8 of an inch and also 7/16 of an inch, popular size. That's big for a 7/16. And this one is also Whitworth, again 3/8 possibly. It's very rusty, and 5/16. All Whitworths, all very old-fashioned sizes, but kind of rusty, and you actually touch them, you come off like feeling a bit grubby. But they are quite nice old things, and I thought, as a break from fixing the cars, let's see if we can make these things actually really shiny and actually kind of a thing to have on the bench to look nice, almost an ornament that you can use. So I figured, let's get hold of some rust removing stuff and an old biscuit tin and see how long it takes to make them just really nice. Now this stuff is meant to mix up a gallon, but I don't need a gallon for 4 spanners, so I'm going to use a little bit less than that. So I'm going to take off about, well, it's about a litre of water in there, maybe a litre and a half, so I'm going to put some of this in here. That's exactly some. Maybe a splash more than some. There we go. Now this says safe on everything except rust. I wonder if that means you can drink it. Do not drink it. Now, because I'm safety conscious, I'm going to wear glasses. Now I'll pop these in here and leave them for a while. And now we wait. I mean, how long? Light rust 2 hours, up to 48 hours. Okay, I'm going to need a second cup of coffee doing this. Well, this has worked really well. All the loose rust has come off and just left a nice kind of black, solid metal finish to these things. Let's go and give them a polish up on the bench. Now I thought I had a fake Dremel, a notch Dremel, but turns out that one broke. I'd forgotten about that. And I've got a real Dremel. Unfortunately, the real Dremel broke as well. The chuck thing fell apart inside when I was clearing some grout out of some tiles I needed to re-grout. I thought it'd be a good idea to try and Dremel in between them all. It turned out it wasn't, because it broke the Dremel. So I bought a new chuck off, I think it was from Amazon, and being pure Chinesium, it fell apart before it, in fact, it doesn't even screw on properly. So I've got hundreds of little Dremel polishy things which won't work, but I'm going to try and use them on the old Bosch. This little brass brush has done wonders. It's taken all the black finish off and gone back to a really nice shiny metal. This is amazing. Right, let's get the dreg of metal polish we've got left and the little polishing buffer wheel we've got here. Let's see if we can give a little bit more of a shine to one of these. Let's see how BSA looks, if I can get anything out. Now, interestingly, on this BSA one, now I've finally revealed what I thought was a size marking or some homemade stamp. It's actually like a little kind of 3 rifles stacked pattern. I don't know if you can see this clearly on the camera. With, well, it looks like it used to say BSA, but it's kind of worn out. SA 33? This is a 1933 spanner, perhaps. That's interesting. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about Whitworth spanners, but if I do fulfil my dream of getting a pre-war car at some point, I am going to need some, because that's what they were bolted together with. But what I do know is that the measurements don't make a lot of sense to modern eyes. I mean, this one, that's a Whitworth 7/16, and this is a modern, I think it's BSF Imperial 7/16. There is a significant difference between the two. Now, from my limited knowledge, I think this is because the inch size on the spanner here doesn't refer to the hexagon head of the bolt, but refers to the shank of the bolt rather than the hexagon head. So that's why it makes no sense. But they are both the same size. So 7/16 is 7/16, which any way you cut it. Now also, I did notice while I was on here, one of these other ones had the same little 3 stacked rifles logo. Which one was it? Because the King Dick also has, this is a 3/8 and a 7/16, same as this one. So the King Dick is also a 3/8/7/16, but the massive old Whitworth size. And I was looking at the markings on it. This is a number 4, and it also has the numbers B2 stamped on it, and chrome vanadium, not that it's very chromy anymore, and C/2474, but then it's got the same little kind of tripod of shapes, which I thought was an A at first, but then I cleaned it and realised it's the same little 3 stacked rifles perhaps, but without the logo underneath it. This is quite interesting. These things I'm sure are all dating from the 30s and possibly even the 40s. I was doing a bit of digging. I like a bit of industrial history, so we've got 3 brands and 1 unbranded to look at. Now we've got, first of all, we've got BSA, King Dick, and this one, Armstrong, made in the USA, it turns out. I've heard of Armstrong, but don't know a lot about them. I thought Armstrong was just like a strong sounding name, like a dwarf or something. But no, it was actually 4 Armstrong brothers in Chicago in 1890. They founded the company back then. They moved to bigger and bigger premises in Chicago and eventually moved to Fayetteville in Texas for a second plant. And they got bought out in 1994 by a bigger company. But the fact that it says made in the USA and it's a Whitworth spanner, 27W it says on it, which is 5/16 Whitworth and 3/8 Whitworth. Again, massive sizes compared to what you expect of a 3/8 or a 5/16. This is probably 1940s, I would say. This slim tapered design is very 1940s to my eyes, which makes me think it was probably from either the war years or just post-war. Now, King Dick. King Dick I thought was an American brand, but no. Bit more digging in the research land of research. Turns out they're a British company up in the Midlands, Birmingham area, the Black Country, because of all the soot and smoke from the fires of industry. Just double checking my research on this one. Abingdon Motorcycles was a British motor manufacturer in Tinsley, Birmingham between 1903 and 1925. But eventually in 1936 they concentrated on machine tools and tools for machine tools under the name Abingdon King Dick or King Dick. Which is not an American brand at all like I thought. And the brand is still going to this day, but I suspect being stamped King Dick with all these kind of old-fashioned measurements on it, I'm going to say this is probably a 1930s one. Now the BSA one. Now I thought this was going to be something to do with motorcycles, as in BSA bikes, but no. So the Birmingham Small Arms Company, founded in 1861, are the people who originated the 3 stacked rifles logo. They were a huge company that made all kinds of things, from machine tools to rifles to, I think, the motorcycles as well. I shouldn't have put metal polish on this, I'm getting black fingers off it now, again. But no, BSA Tools was a company founded in Birmingham in 1920, making machine tools, and then later on in the 30s supplied to the aircraft industry. So this would have been possibly to go with a lathe or some other big machine tool thing, which was, you know, making parts for the cars. So who knows what history it is, but I'm going to say this is a 1920s or 30s tool, especially considering this design with the kind of pressed in lozenge and the raised letters. This looks very late 20s to me. I think this is a bit of living history here. If I do get an Austin 7, it'll be a pleasure to use this on that one. Now the 4th one is something of a mystery. There's no markings on it whatsoever. No, there are no size markings on it and no brand on it whatsoever. All I can say is that the larger end is 5/16 Whitworth, same as this, and the smaller end is smaller. So who knows what size this actually is. It's 3/8. What next size down in Imperial? I forget. Hang on, let me check the spanner drawer. Maybe 3/8. I'm not quite sure. But the only marking I could find on it was FW. It's stamped, or kind of stamped like individual small marks. Someone's managed to kind of punch the letters FW with a little, I don't know, chisel or something, very lightly, and then further around to the side it's got FW with actual kind of punch letters. Someone's punched it in. So I guess this was in someone's personal toolbox, maybe in a factory, maybe an apprentice had this. Again, I reckon this is probably 1940s, this thing. Maybe as new as the 50s, but I would say probably 1940s looking at it. At the moment, these are all virtually useless to me, and I've got a bunch more in the box they came in probably more of the same sizes. But I'm nothing with Whitworth on at the moment. But I do plan to get some pre-war cars, so when that does happen, these will absolutely come into their own. And then I can, at the moment, they would make quite a nice wall ornament. I can sort of hang them all up on here, looking quite pretty. I am going to move the alpha sign because that's very, very vulnerable when I'm using them, whacking stuff in the vise, or if I try and grind anything in the vise, it has to be taken off and hidden somewhere else. So that will go further down the wall or over there somewhere or something once the rover's moved. In the meantime though, these can live in the drawer of weird sized spanners. Regular imperial, metric, massive stuff and weird stuff. This can be the drawer of historic and huge. So the big things I use occasionally, a 32mm spanner, a 15/16 inch spanner, 1/16 AF. It sure is. Now while I was delving in this drawer, I found this one. This all started when I was looking for a 3/4 inch or a 9/16 that I could cut down to make into a sensor remover for the Volvo. Because I could only find a nice 19mm spanner, and I wasn't going to cut that down to try and attempt to get the sensor off the Volvo and then ruin my one good 19mm. So I was going through all the old boxes of spanners I could find, looking for a 3/4 inch, which is close enough to 19mm to work. I couldn't find one. This was buried right at the back, but I did find all the old Whitworth stuff, which is quite interesting. But yeah, having found this though, this little 3/4 inch, this may feel the wrath of the grinder later on today, and hopefully I can then get the sensor off without buying a new tool. This is quite an old one. It is a Gordon Tools. I've not heard of Gordon Tools before. Chrome Vanadium. Gordon Tools. Let's see if you're strong enough to take a Volvo sensor off. Is anything as strong as a Volvo sensor? That's the question. Well, this has been a fun interlude from fixing cars by polishing tools instead. A bit different, but yeah, I'll be back on fixing the motors on the next video undoubtedly. If you've liked this, please hit like, and as always, please hit subscribe. Keep safe everyone, I'll see you soon.